Is Bjorn Waldegard, seated number 1 in the Mercedes team. He's the current world champion. He's Swedish and normally drives a Ford, but this year driving for Mercedes. The traditional flagging away on the first touring stage to the first special. Bjorn Waldegard. Number 2 and leading this year's World Championship points for drivers is Walter Rohrl. It's a Fiat 131 Abarth. He's currently the hot-running driver this year and well ahead on points. Needs 3rd place. Special stage 1, Bjorn Waldegard. You can see that big Mercedes, 5 litres of V8, 325 horsepower. It's a little long in the wheelbase for New Zealand conditions, where probably Fords and the Fiat will be better suited, or perhaps the Datsun if it's wet. This is Walter Rohrl. You can see how much tighter that Fiat is. It's a smaller car, 235 horsepower from a 2-litre 16-valve motor, similar to the Fiats that were here a couple of years ago. Much tighter lines. As you can see, the roads are wet, very slippery. Bjorn Waldegard showing how wide a lines that Mercedes has to take in the wet. Walter Rohrl. Much tighter line. Fiat ideally suited to these conditions. And Walter Rohrl only needs 3rd place to retain his World Championship lead, so he's not going to be breaking his neck. He won't be taking any risks. And it's well within his capabilities, provided the car keeps going, to finish 3rd in this event. Still special stage 1. Now that's Rohrl has caught and passed Bjorn Waldegard. So in 30 Ks, that's more than a minute he's made up. Bjorn Waldegard obviously having to take wider lines in the much bigger Mercedes. That's Andrew Cowan. Another Mercedes, and here's a man who could be the dark horse in the field, Timo Salonen. He's been here before, he knows the roads. The car's a Group 2 Datsun 2-litre. It's a 160J. Timo Salonen, very aggressive driver. This is came here last year in the Chevette. The Chevette didn't keep going. This year he's driving for the Mass Sport team in the Ford. That's an Escort BDA. Little bump here in Division 1. Bjorn Waldegard slewing around a little. Here's Walter Rohrl. Much tidier. Walter Rohrl making good time. Pentti Ricola. Jim Donald in the number 2 Mass Sport Escort. Anu Mikola. George Fury from Australia in the number 2 Datsun. Now that's Brian Green. Brian Green, a rally driver that's been around for a long time. It's a BDA Escort, and what it looks like he's done is broken the throttle cable. Murray Chandler just going past him in the Lancer. In fact, what he's going to do as co-driver is he's tying the throttle cable so that he can hold it out the window. Means he can drive to the end of the stage holding on to the throttle. It'll get him there quicker than trying to fix it in the middle. The big Mercedes. This stuff is really too tight and too slippery for the Mercedes. Much better suited to the smaller cars. Bjorn Waldegard already losing time. He's lost over a minute. Very wide lines. They come to check in at the end of the stage. Bjorn Waldegard already losing plenty of time, and the man who is leading at this stage is Timo Salonen. This is Walter Rohrl's co-driver.
Salonen is going fast and I go very slowly. I be very careful with the car when it doesn't destroy anything. Datsun has 3 cars. Okay, they can push, but I am only the only Fiat.
And so the touring stage, and Walter Rohrl explaining why he only needs 3rd place, and he can afford a little comfort, if you like. He doesn't need to break his neck. Touring now for some more special stages, still in Division 1. Walter Rohrl just behind Timo Salonen, who's in the lead. explained, a single car. Timo Salonen, one of two. Now we've got Bjorn Waldegard stuck in the Ford. Now it's a deep Ford. Now he must have lost a lot of time here. And that'll be valuable time. And you can see there Walter Rohrl is backed up behind him, and Timo Salonen as well, so he must have lost nearly 3 minutes. That'll be time that will be very, very hard to try and pull back Walter Rohrl away and Timo Salonen. So Bjorn Waldegard has lost nearly 3 minutes in that Ford. That'll be 2 days' work to draw back if he can. This is George Fury in the number 2 Datsun. Works Datsuns from Japan. Paul Adams in the number 1 General Motors Chevette. 2.3 litre 16 valve motor, twin cam. Into the Ford. Very tricky stuff. Second Ford within a couple of miles on this stage. And he stopped. He's losing time. Fords are so tricky. You can go through them fast, but it's so dangerous because the time you lose is so hard to pull back in special stages. And there's Shane Millen in the number 2 General Motors Chevette, who's caught Adams. And he's going to go past him, so Adams has lost at least a minute. Shane Millen currently lying 8th, picking up good time. That's Trevor Crowe, seated number 17, driving a BDA Ford for the first time in an international. Normally drives Datsuns. Good driver from Canterbury. Currently lying 17th. Paul Adams, currently lying 10th. Coming to the end of the first day. Good time for Paul Adams. There's Ingvar Carlsson in the number 4 Mercedes. It's a 280 and quite a handful. A big crowd for a fine day in Nelson to watch the event. International drivers of great repute here. And so we come to the end of Division 1. Timo Salonen holding that lead just tenuously, 1:31 from Walter Rohrl. It's not a bad sort of margin. Waldegard has lost valuable points in there. Jim Donald is the first New Zealander at 3rd place. Good driving from him, then Pentti Erikkola, and then George Fury. And so to the start of Division 2. Cars just leaving Nelson to drive out to Bagents Forest. That's Andrew Cowan getting a little anxious to get there on time. He must check in on time. Special Stage 1, Division 1. Timo Salonen. Oh, very wide line for Timo Salonen. Here's Walter Rohrl, a much tighter line. You can see lots of people, a lot of crowds on the corners. Andrew Cowan, currently the best of the Mercedes. Cowan a bit more familiar with the machines than other people, though he's never driven this model, which is a 4-speed auto. Ingvar Carlsson in the 280 Mercedes, number 4 Mercedes car. Here's Walter Rohrl, still in 2nd place. A minute and a half down on Timo Salonen. The weather's dried up, should favour the Fiat, and the Fords for that matter. And this is 135 miles an hour for a Mercedes-Benz, capable of 140 in a straight line. This is where they excel, where it's a bit straighter. In 5th place, Hannu Mikola. So the Mercedes team, after a bad day on the first day in the wet, it was too tight and twisty for them. They're starting to pick up times well now. Mikola. Some of the casualties here on the road. Baron Robertson's car number 57 in the Chevette. And Dennis O'Brien, that is, car 75 in the 120-way coupe. They're out. Here's a Ford for Andrew Cowan. Getting a little assistance out at the end of that. He's got a problem with his rear axle. So Mercedes have flown in by helicopter an entire rear end. They broke a half shaft. They had the helicopter in the air with an entire back end slung underneath it, and now it's furious work for the Mercedes team to get this in before he's too late. That's here Vaxenberger, who is the team manager for Mercedes, very anxious to get Andrew Cowan's car to Parc Fermé on time. He can't afford more than 20 minutes of time, so they've got to get this back end in 20 minutes or less. Some of the beautiful countryside around the Nelson area. This is Timo Salonen, still in the lead. Ingvar Carlson, the 280 Mercedes. And into Parc Fermé at Golden Downs Forest.
I think we can make it, but that depends if we don't have any more problems. But it's just possible.
So on after the lunch break, into the Golden Downs Forest again for another 3 stages. Very dusty this time, something they haven't had yet because of the rain. That will favour the front runners. Now we've had an off, and it's Jim Donald who was laying third. He's come off. The car's not badly damaged, but he has lost too much time and he'll be excluded. Here's his co-driver, Kevin Lancaster.
We're actually travelling down a very fast downhill section, and we came over a bit of a blind brow, which was followed by a very tight right-hander. Unfortunately, the sun was shining through the trees and directly into Jim's eyes, and he almost missed the corner. He did scramble around it, but unfortunately the 2 outside wheels went over the edge. As the car scrambled back on, the back hit a tree, which brought the front over and stopped it half on the road and half off. Unfortunately, the roading underneath crumbled, and the car slid down the bank onto its side and up against a tree. And that was the end of it. It took 3 Land Rovers and 6 people to winch it out afterwards.
So bad luck for Jim Donald, who loses that 3rd place, and he's out of the event now. Timo Salonen getting a change of tyres, having a nervous smoke.
We are about 25 seconds front of Walter.
25 seconds in front of Walter Rohrl. He has Japanese mechanics from the Works Datsun factory, of course. A little communications problem there. And another one that arises with the number 2 Datsun driver, who's George Fury from Australia. So the common language is English, and hopefully some of it's good.
Just not going. Only spinning on this wheel.
Is that right?
Yeah. Whether the other axle's been broken on the last stage or not. He's had the wheel off. I've had a flat tire for about 11 kilometres. I had one the previous stage for about 5, so dropped a bit of time on those 2. We didn't stop to change them, we kept driving. It cost you a lot of time. Apart from that, things are good.
Things are good, and still in 4th place, George Fury from Australia in the number 2 Datsun car. Glenn McIntyre, car number 27. He is doing amazingly well in the Datsun 16, in an Escort 1600. He's managed to get himself up to 10th place, which for an Escort 1600 Sport is amazingly good driving. Glenn McIntyre from Wellington.
I think we've been very lucky so far. That'll do then. That'll do. Right. Yeah, we've been very, very lucky, I think. We haven't had any troubles. The car's run well, other than losing a brake line, and we swiped the bank. Apart from that, it's been going very well indeed. Yeah, we're real happy.
And so lots of spectators and traffic on the road as the cars leave Golden Downs. Lights on, just on darkness. This is Malcolm Stewart, another of the drivers well down the seating order, but doing very well in car 28. Another Escort 1600.
We just need a bit of a check over around here, something. Still running idling too fast, and occasionally it floods up when you drop down a low gear, but we might have to study that float situation again.
A bit of a crack starting on the exhaust here too.
A bit of a crack starting? Might need a bit of a welding up there. It's along the top. The lights all need shining downwards, all too high.
We've got those other two. You want to chuck them in now?
Oh, we could do. It doesn't matter much, but we're catching possums all up in the trees. Can't see much of the road at all.
That's the telltale sign of the troubles that Andrew Cowan has been having all day. That's the fuel pump on the ground, complicated as it looks. You've been having problems with that all day, and here Waxenberger is anxious to get it going again. Andrew Cowan losing valuable time.
Andrew, what's gone wrong?
This time, we don't know. It's the engine's cutting out, and it stopped in the last special stage, and maybe fuel, you know, so we're changing the fuel pumps and the filters in case we pick up some dirt.
Car's obviously going again, the big V8 fired up, and Andrew Cowan off in again into the night at the end of Division 2. So as we come to the end of Division 2, the results, Timo Salonen still holding on to that lead by 1 minute and 5 seconds from Walter Rohrl. Pentti Rikkilä has moved up into 3rd place, then George Fury, then Hannu Mikkola. Jim Donald, of course, went off in stage 11, so he's out altogether, and we have 51 of the 80-odd starters still left in the rally.
Here, in this farm scene, there's a killer.
To Division 3, 12 special stages, Golden Downs and Bajent's Forest, and on to Greymouth till 3 o'clock in the morning. Bjorn Waldegard. Two Mercedes car, seated 3. And here's Bjorn Waldegard in the number 1 Mercedes car, currently lying 6th in the rally. And really getting the Mercedes wound up. This is wider and more open stuff, much better suited to the Mercedes. And here's a little, by comparison, minuscule pushrod Datsun Escort 1600, 1/3 the motor size of the Mercedes, and doing very well. Glenn McIntyre from Wellington, having a great rally. This is Patrick Gratien from New Caledonia, in the 2-litre Celica, just by Lake Rotorua. He's a little off the pace, Patrick Gratien. Still going consistently. Just needs to stay out of trouble, and he'll be in with a good place. Here's another Ford Escort going extremely well for the size of the car and the engine. This is Peter Cullen, car 35. And another one of these great bunch of Ford Escort Sports. Car 40 is Alan Wills from Oamaru. Another man having a good rally. Walter Rohrl really getting the field 131 wound up. Capable of 120 miles an hour to 135 horsepower. Andrew Cowan. Had a punch at 20 k's into the stage. This was the result. He's driven all the way out of that stage on it and destroyed the rim. And Patrick Gratien, after an argument with a tree.
Randy overtook me on gravel, on asphalt. I overtook him.
Did you have a problem in there?
No, it's only my tires.
Your tires?
I have very hard tires.
They're not suitable for the stage.
No.
What did you think of the stage?
For me, too fast. I'm always too short. I have always limitation.
you happy with your times as they're going? It seems like Penty's catching you.
No problem.
You're not worried?
No problem.
Still 8 hours to go and complete nonchalance from Walter Rohrl in the Fiat. Quite happy with his second place at the moment. Timo Salonen off into the night. Difficult stuff, the night driving. They've got good lights, but it's still hard work. Mikola currently lying third. Paul Adams in the Chevette. He's sixth. Andrew Cowan's trying to pick up places as well. He's well down.
Mike, just missed me in the corner. When? Yeah, another video. You make a lovely face, man. I'll never see up this year. You don't switch that later.
Andrew Cowan away. Very familiar with New Zealand roads, particularly South Island ones. He's won here twice, once in a Mini and once in an Avenger, but he's never driven a Mercedes here before. Timo Salonen still holding on to that lead. Seppo Hayan, that's Timo Salonen's co-driver. Penty still holding on to third place. The brake's getting very hot indeed. He's really pushing it now, trying to pick up places. Mikola. Mikola sitting in third place. He's won twice here as well. It's Jim Scott, Paul Adams co-driver. And on to the service break, the Mercedes team. Looks like they haven't got a great deal to do. They must be happy with the way the cars are going, although they're going to need to push them very hard from here on in. Graham Lorimer from Hamilton in the Escort. He's got some work to do.
Right.
Currently well down. And his co-driver is Nicky Duckworth, former Miss New Zealand. Getting her hands dirty tonight. Paul Adams is currently sixth.
What, one got water? Popped or not? Yeah. Cut right out. Worse, actually. Just cut right out? Yeah. Stopped there. You must have done something to it since we did the testing at Spiral, because it wasn't that bad before, eh? That's what we, can't bloody figure out at all. Well, even Shane's is going to the water a lot better than ours. Even Shane's is going to the water a lot better than ours. Yeah, I know. Yeah. See, it went down to 2 cylinders on the first board, and then with the second one, we only just got through across the other side.
So Paul Adams with a few problems in the number 1 Chevette, and this is the number 2 Chevette, Shane Merlin's. Adams is lying 6th at the moment. He won't want to lose any time.
No.
And Penty, by the looks, is changing the gearbox. Jim Donald is on the service crew again. Very professional service crew, the Massport crew. They have been in the last few years. Very fast. Fast and furious work. In fact, it is a gearbox they're changing. On Penty car, the number 1 Massport Ford Escort. Fast work from the Massport crew. And so at the end of Division 3, Timo Salonen still has that lead, and that's amazing in a Datsun 2-litre that's only in Group 2. Walter Rohrl's right behind him. He's not doing anything silly. A minute 37 behind. Then Penty. Shane Merland is out of that stage. He's blown a motor at the end of the stage. And so on to Division 4. And this is the sort of weather that Greymouth and the West Coast turned on for Division 4. It's very wet. It will suit the smaller cars, and it will probably suit Timo Salonen. He's got that lead, and he's not letting it go. Of course, he's got a buffer between himself and Penty of 5-odd minutes. Walter Rohrl's in the middle there, but he's not trying too hard. This is Penty. He really needs to push it now to pick up that 5 minutes. Walter Rohrl happy with his second place. Driving well within himself. The Fiat going superbly well. The Waldegard away. They've got a long straight in this stage, almost 3 Ks long. Timo Salonen. That's 120 miles an hour. Now the Datsun is not all that fast in a straight line, and you can see there that Pentti Ricola has caught up. We'll get a time as he comes past, but it looks like he's so close. 15 seconds behind Timo, so Pentti has caught up 45 seconds. He's really pushing. He had 5 minutes from the start of this division to catch up. Mikola and the big Mercedes, and this straight for them will be close to 140 miles an hour. 325 horsepower of V8. Lorimer into the Ford. He has to be careful here. He doesn't want to get the motor and the electrics wet. They can be very dangerous and very tricky things, Fords. You can get the electrics wet, or if they're up high like this one is with all the rain, the force of the water is quite a lot. This is Jeff Owen, almost off the side. Jeff Owen, car 65, just saving it. The potential danger there. Brent Ralston into the Ford now. And Brian Stokes right on his tail. He's caught up a minute. Just a little sideways there. Very slippery. And so they leave the west coast, and hopefully to some better weather in Canterbury, up to Arthur's Pass. This is Lake Linden. 30k stage here. Still 21 hours away from Christchurch and Cathedral Square and the finish. Timo Salonen should be the first in, and he is still in the lead. Timo Salonen. Walter Rohrl still holding second place, Hannu Mikola third, George Fury fourth, and Bjorn Waldegard in fifth place. This is an amazing performance from the Datsun. Only 190 horsepower. Well under the specifications of the Fiat and the Ford Escorts and the Chevettes. Timo first in. He'll probably start to ease off just a little now. He's got a nice buffer between he and third place, and Walter Rohrl in second place is not trying all that hard.
Yeah. 8:34.39.
And there's some bad news at this stage.
What about Walter Rohrl? He's still there.
He's about 1.5 minutes behind us.
The bad news is that Pentti Ricola, who was in third place, has come off. He is out altogether, and he's injured as well. Right at the end of special stage 31.
I don't know what happened. I saw him 80 or 100 meters straight on, but I was thinking maybe he only took a small road and he will come back, but I haven't heard anything.
Yeah. How bad was that corner after the stage?
Yeah, of course, it was like here, it was always fifth gear, over a brow, finished off stage after 80 meters, 90 right.
Such a nasty place. And I think that is a rule what should be necessary to put into the FIA as well. Of course, you shall drive the car all the time, but it's silly to make it like this.
And so several of the drivers are a little unhappy with the end of stage 31, which is where Pentti Ricola came off. And now from the long touring stage, it's steam cleaning. The reason for it is that there's a fungus in the Nelson Forest that they don't want transferred to Canterbury, so that all the cars, in case they've picked up some of it, are being steam cleaned here at Rangiora, ready for the stages in Ashley Forest. And there's the damage you can see to Pentti Ricola's car. It's not drastic damage, but it was enough to do some damage to Pentti Ricola's back. He has a fracture in the spine. Gore Bay, North Canterbury, just out of Cheviot. Short 10 or 11k special stage here, down to De Metz. Of course, a contrast from last night's weather. It's dry and will suit the smaller cars again. Hannu Mikola, still lying third. An amazing performance considering how much he was down. He's fought his way back to third. Still quite a gap, but it's a good third place for him. The first of the Mercedes. George Fury's in fourth, and Bjorn Waldegard in the other Mercedes is fifth. And touring on down through Canterbury, where they'll come to Christchurch, and above Christchurch, the Port Hills, for the final special stages before they get to Christchurch. This is the Port Hills, and that's what it looks like, Christchurch, from above Christchurch. 2 short stages here, under 10 Ks. This is Timo Salonen. All he's got to do is stay on the road, essentially, to win the 1980 Motoguard Rally. It's an amazing performance from the Datsun. It's gone extremely well, and Timo Salonen really has got this thing sewn up. He's only got a short touring stage, so unofficially he's won the 1980 Motoguard Rally. He must be a happy man. The car was considered an underdog right from the start. And right behind him, Walter Rohrl, who with that second place will have enough points to hold his World Championship lead quite easily. Anu Mikola, he's won twice before in New Zealand rallies. Coming up to the end of the last stage, last special, Anu Mikola will unofficially be in third place in what really has been an uncompetitive car in the conditions. Anu Mikola's done amazingly well to come through to third place in the Mercedes. And the number 2 Datsun coming in fourth place. So first and fourth for Datsun. This is George Fury, the Australian driver, driving for Wertz Datsun. Very likeable fella, George Fury. And a very good performance indeed, too, from both the Datsuns. 1 and 4, George Fury in fourth place. Bjorn Waldegard, who came here as the current World Rally Champion. He was driving a car that had a lot of publicity and a lot of build-up. He has come in 5th place. These places, of course, unofficial. Bjorn Waldegard had problems right from the word go. He's fought his way back and has finished in 5th place. The second of the Mercedes. Anu Mikola, of course, in third. 6th place, and the first New Zealander, the number 1 Chevette from the General Motors team of 3. This is Paul Adams with co-driver Jim Scott, and he'll be happy with 6th place and the first New Zealand crew in. And a man who always enjoys rallying and seems to compete in cars that are basically stock standard, Brangy Greenland. He's come in well down the order, but he's finished. And so the finish ramp for Timo Salonen. An excellent drive in what has been an excellent and reliable car. Timo Salonen wins the 1980 Motoguard International Rally from Walter Rohrl in second place, who's virtually sewn up the World Championship points now for drivers. Timo Salonen the winner. Walter Rohrl second, Anu Mikola third, George Fury is fourth, Bjorn Waldegard is fifth. 6th place in the first New Zealander, Paul Adams. 7th is Paddy Davidson, another good performance.